when I was called on stage. But yes, my talk today is about milestone myth and the audacity to rewrite your timeline. We'll get to it in a minute about what this means, but I would like to start with this picture, which is very dear to me. That's my dad, that's me below, and that's my younger sister. On my 13th birthday, I asked my father, I actually reminded him, you haven't gifted me anything. So he looked at me and said, okay, what do you want? I looked at that motorcycle of his and told him to teach me to ride it. This, how many of you recognize? It's the two-stroke, legendary Yamaha RX100. It took him 3 days to teach me to ride it. This was his first motorcycle that he bought from his first salary when he was 19 years old. Cut to 2024, I was on an all-India ride, and that's my motorcycle, Agni. I had ridden 5,000 kilometers to be in the most beautiful place on earth, Ladakh. The higher we kept climbing, both me and my bike were struggling to breathe. And at one point, 16th day of the ride, I was at the spot which was the main reason the entire ride began. And I see this milestone board that says, you are higher than Everest Base Camp. Took me a minute to realize that means I have ridden higher than 17,000 feet. We were not done there, okay? A kilometer further, I see another board. And this said, welcome to the highest motorable road. We were still not at the milestone, okay? One more kilometer, and I finally see that yellow board. This is a dream for a lot of motorcyclists in India. This is a place that a lot of motorcyclists want to reach. At this point, I remember I started crying. There was no other emotion but just tears. Not because I did not think I was not going to reach, but because I realized that half my life I had spent on my dad's motorcycle or my husband's motorcycle or borrowed motorcycles, and I was there as a 33-year-old on my own motorcycle on top of the world. It felt special. Hi, I'm Mouna Nanaiah. I'm a content creator, a motorcyclist, and an IT professional. So when people ask me, what do you do for a living? I have a lot of answers. Monday to Friday, I work in an IT company as a HR. Saturday, Sundays, I make content. And long weekends and longer weekends, I ride motorcycles. This is what I do. This is a quote that is very dear to me, because this, I think, agrees with a lot of us in the room. At an age when society wants you to have your life figured out, at an age society wants you to be settled, whatever that means, I was just getting started. What does this mean? I'm going to give 3 chapters from my life where I felt I did something different. Chapter 1 is about self-belief. This picture is from 2016. This was end of a 13-day trek called Pin Parvati Pass in Himachal Pradesh. It's a very high altitude, slightly dangerous trek. And that's me being the photographer for that trek. And this statement is something I've heard for at least 8 years of my career when I was a freelance photographer. Are you the lady photographer for the event? Because even as late as 2012, being a lady photographer was an anomaly. It was not normal. My journey with self-belief and faith started when I was 21, in 2012, when I bought my first camera on EMI, when I didn't even have a salary, because I was a working student and I had something called stipend, which was 10,000 Indian rupees. And in 2012, I randomly started this Facebook page just so that I had a space to put whatever I was doing, a space to put my content. That's all it was. But in less than a year, I had freelance event gigs, brands wanting to work with me, and majority of my job was maternity shoots, wedding shoots, candid photography shoots, product shoots. This is what I was doing. I remember my parents being really upset that their engineer daughter was spending half her salary buying camera equipment instead of investing in gold for her wedding. And this was the first time I believe I broke out of my timeline. Investing in gold for marriage at 25? No. One of the top 10 women photographers in Bangalore at 25. Chapter 2. Starting over. This is the earliest chapter now. This is a very new chapter, in fact. This was just last year. That's me delivering my first onboarding session as a HR professional. In pre-university, my major was biology. I did my bachelor's in computer applications. I did my master's in software engineering, and I worked for 14 years as a software quality specialist. After a point, I decided I needed a change. And the very evident choice was to quit my full-time job and become a full-time content creator. Correct? Most of us want to do that, and a lot of us have done that. What I did was took a 180-degree detour, and I switched careers instead of jobs. I became a HR from a tech person. My job is to onboard new hires, and my profile says corporate learning specialist. Let me tell you, I have 0 certifications on my resume for this job. All I did was I applied and I gave an interview. And this was the second time in my life, I feel, that I moved out of my timeline. A promotion to a manager position at 35? No. Starting at the bottom in my professional career at 35. And this is my favorite chapter. This comes before my first 2 chapters for me. Finding freedom. Ah, you're going to love this person. Do you recognize this person? Do you know who this is? This is me. Okay. Meet my alter ego, Monty. Monty claims to be my husband's younger brother. Monty doesn't speak or talk with words, speaks in actions. And Monty's always wearing a bandana, doesn't show the face. This was earlier one of the things we started doing to protect ourselves when we are in really remote places and countryside and highways, just to look like 2 men riding a motorcycle. The best thing we could do was hide my identity. Felt safer to do that. This reminds me of a very eerie story. To date, when I think about this and when we talk about it, we feel a little bit of goosebumps that we put ourselves in a situation like this. But we were riding somewhere in the northwest part of India around 8:30, 9 p.m. We realized we are lost. Maps is still saying you're on the national highway, but we were lost. There was a roadblock and there was no way to get to the highway. So when we were looking around, a local person, the one you see in front, stopped and told us he's heading the same way. He's going to drop us to the highway. Follow us. All right. Wow. Sounds genuine. Why wouldn't we go? So we started following him. First, he took a right into a very small lane, which was a proper road. 1 minute into riding, it became a kacha road. Still okay. Another minute into riding, all we see is both our headlights, and we realize we are no more on a road. We were bang center in the middle of a paddy field, a vast stretch of paddy field. No lights, nothing, just our headlights. Little bit of antenna was up, and we were thinking, okay, let's just follow him. We trust. We kept following him. He reached what looked like, a hamlet or a village. And then from the right side at this junction, 4 other motorcyclists are coming. All right, both of us went to first gear, slowed down a little bit. What's happening? We're on the intercom talking to each other. This is a red flag. What's happening? Why are more men joining him? And according to him, these are 2 men, right? Monty and Shambhu. Two people are riding with him. Nothing. They just waved at each other. All of them left. He looked at us and said, I am going left. This is your road. Continue and you will reach. So we left. 30 minutes, we got out of that road as quickly as we could, reached the nearest petrol pump, and that's me thanking God that we were safe and sound to motorcycle another day. This is just a small story of how life on the road is. It's not all nice and rosy as it looks like on social media. These are moments some of the times we don't even talk about. And this is something that I feel dearly about. I learned to ride a motorcycle at the age of 13, but I found the freedom of motorcycling at the age of 33. Motorcycling is hard. It's not easy at all. I remember being ecstatic when I took the delivery of my motorcycle, Agni, not because I'd bought this big materialistic thing, but because when I saw that motorcycle, what I saw was endless possibilities. Yep, those were actual washrooms that I have used in my road trips. I don't drink a lot of water because I can't get hygienic washrooms on the tour. We can't go to any dhaba or motels we see on the road, safety purpose, so we carry a lot of food. And God forbid you have your menstrual cycle as a woman, it's a whole other level of planning when you're touring. So, important question then, why do you continue to ride? Why do you want to ride a motorcycle when it's so difficult? Because for me, motorcycling means freedom. That smile is not a pose for camera, but genuinely how I felt being randomly somewhere in Maharashtra. With my motorcycle, I don't have to be in the Himalayas or international all the time. Just a random meadow that's green in monsoon in Maharashtra makes me happy, and that gives me freedom. That's why I motorcycle. And this was the third time I broke out of timeline. When I got married, I was told, oh, sorted, be a pillion and you're good. No, I'm going to lead my husband as a pilot. I'm not going to be a pillion. Coming to the important question now, which is the talk about timeline trap. What is a timeline trap? You know, there's a sequence in life that we are told we have, the life loop. At 25, you should have your dream job. At 30, you should be settled. And at 40, you should stop experimenting. This is the timeline trap. It forces us to live our lives as if we are performing for an invisible audience. It forces us to measure our lives and our achievements against an invisible clock. That is a timeline trap. So how do we break free from this timeline trap? I have 3 points and 3 takeaways for you all so you don't fall into this trap. The first one is to acknowledge your internal speed limit. We all know internet speed limit. What is internal speed limit? I'll give you an example. My father-in-law started to learn Carnatic music at a very young age of 50. He's partially deaf. He uses a hearing aid. And despite the slow speed and snail's pace of improvement he has seen, at the age of 65, he still continues to practice every day. Think of the internal speed limit as this voice in your head that tells you what to do, tells you how fast you're going, tells you how slow you're going, tells you if you're on time. The day we start acknowledging and listening to that voice, you'll realize the only person telling you what to do is yourself, no one else. That's your internal speed limit. Second point, embrace the power of being a beginner. We're all scared of being beginners. You know, when you want to do something new or try something new, you feel panic and you feel guilt. Like for me, quitting my job of being an engineer after all the education and everything I went through to be a trainer in my company felt like a loss of 14 years. Was it really though? Most of the times we don't try new things because we have 2 fears. Fear of unknown and fear of failing. We are told life is binary. Everything's total success or everything's total failure. What if I tell you there's an in-between? A vast space, the biggest space possible, called possibilities. When you try new things, when you want to think about new things, when you act on new things, all there is possibilities. Embrace that. And this brings me to the third point and the last point. Add method to your madness. Leap of faith, planned leap of faith is better than just leap of faith, right? I visualize. Whenever I want to try something new, I visualize. Let me explain. For instance, I want to become an author. At this point, I have imagined, I've just had the thought I want to become an author. I have visualized, I have already written 5 books. They are already being sold in e-commerce websites. They are already being stored in bookstores. I have gone to book signings. I have also given my 3rd TEDx talk, which is about being an author. This is how I visualize. This tells me, how far do I want to go with this? This tells me how much time, energy, effort am I willing to put and I want to put to reach there. And then I backtrack. So I follow 3 things. First thing, I visualize and I know what this means to me. Second thing, based on what it means to me, I plan and then only I execute. This makes you more safe, makes you more comfortable in taking that leap of faith instead of just jumping. This brings me to the end of my talk, and I want to leave you all with this map or an image of what looks like a map of life. When we're all born, we're handed a drawn map by someone else. Look at this map and ask yourself, whose story is this? Is this my story? Does this look like my story? The reason to break free from a timeline or break free from a timeline trap is not because you're going to end up being successful or not because you have all the answers. It's only so that you don't have a checklist to follow to be completed, so that you have a story and a life to be lived. So I'm going to leave you with my last question. Do you have the audacity to break and rewrite your timeline even when the world has handed you a script? Thank you.